What's up? Just kidding. I won't do that.
Don't do that, please.
All right, go.
Hey guys, back on. It's been a while. Our son started school this past week on Wednesday, and it's been super awesome. He was really excited to start school, and we love the school that he's attending. And you want to say anything about it?
Yes, he's done 3 days of school so far. He's making friends. He's got one friend.
Yeah, one friend named Ellie.
And he loves it. He's learning, and he's the smartest person in the class.
I think he's being biased because that's his son. But he is pretty smart. Yeah, but we want to get back into the Enneagram because that's just a quick life update. Back into the Enneagram because we had told you guys we were gonna kind of discuss a little bit. So we are not at all gurus on the Enneagram. Like, we are super newbies, rookies, lowest level of knowing anything about the Enneagram.
Yeah, it's trending right now.
Yeah, but it's been around forever. So It's not like a new thing. It's not this new little thing that has been discovered.
So what's the Enneagram?
So anyways, so what's the Enneagram?
I was trying to be like a person.
Oh yeah, sorry, who's trying to be like a person? I didn't catch that cue. But anyway, so it's not anything new. But I think last time when we recorded our first video, our introduction video, I had told you guys that I was a 1 and he was a 9. And, babe, what am I?
You're an 8 now.
I'm an 8, not now, but that's probably what I was. And he's still a 9.
Misdiagnosed.
We were misdiagnosing ourselves. Just kidding.
And I'm a 9.
He's still a 9.
Which is a peacemaker.
Yeah, and an 8 is the challenger. And so for one of our date nights, which you might have seen this video on our Instagram, did you post that yet? No?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, on our Instagram, part of our date night was to go hang out with our friends, but also it was, we listened to a podcast by Jeremy and Audrey Roloff, who got interviewed by Ian. And so I forgot Ian's last name, but he's kind of like one of the thriving people with the Enneagram and knows a lot, has a lot of information. He wrote the book Back to You, which is going to be in at least my reading list because that would really help you define what your Enneagram is. A lot of us, like us, that's including, we just kind of go online and take a test and
2-question test.
2-question test, which is not going to tell you your Enneagram, so don't do that. But his test actually, it used to be free. I took it for free.
Now you
have to pay money because it's obviously being hyped up. But yeah. So anyways, but he's just kind of this top lead guy with the Enneagram, and so we learned a lot just in that, what is an hour podcast, kind of.
It's probably that long.
Yeah. And so in that podcast, he was interviewing an 8 and a 9. And just kind of the dynamic of how they might work together. And so we're just gonna discuss on like kind of each of our dynamics and some perceptions that people might have outwardly towards like our relationship personally. And so really knowing the Enneagram has helped us because it has actually helped me personally, spiritually to know the areas that I need to work on. But then also just kind of had to mesh a little bit better together as a married couple. And so I really wish that I would have done the Enneagram for like a pre-marriage counseling session, because I think that it really would have helped us out like our first 2 years of marriage, and really understanding each other and how we communicate. And when I talk really loud, it doesn't mean that I'm super upset. It just means I'm really passionate about what I'm saying. And so little things like that you wouldn't really understand or realize, and you would just be prejudging somebody by how they act or talk, or I use obviously a lot of body language. And so anyway, so do you want to go into yours first?
Yes. Yeah, so if you don't know what a 9 is a peacemaker. We basically don't like any kind of conflict. We don't want to disturb the peace, if you will.
Internal peace.
Internal peace. I have a lot of internal peace. There's something that's gonna create a fight of some sort, especially with my wife. I will try to avoid that. And so that's usually my take. So kind of the external attributes would be that I'm a little bit more quiet. I probably won't speak up if something is bothering me. I'm just gonna chill, you know. I don't wanna disturb my peace. So that's what 9s are. I am more of a wing of
8.
I haven't really figured out my wing yet. I could either be an 8 or a 1. So I am still discovering that.
Yeah. And so just to add a little bit to the characteristics of a 9, and I'm reading off of this website. 9s are accepting, trusting, and stable. They are usually creative, optimistic, supportive. But my phone died. But they can also be too willing to go along with others to keep the peace. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict, but they can also tend to be complacent, simplifying problems and minimizing anything upsetting. They typically have problems with inertia, which I don't know what that means, and stubbornness. At their best though, they're all embracing. They are able to bring people together and heal conflicts. And the basic fear for a 9 is loss and separation. And so they really just want to create harmony in their environment, avoid conflicts, tension, and preserve things as they are. They resist whatever would upset or disturb them. So now you're gonna hear mine, which is the complete opposite of what he is, which 8s and 9s are described as fire and water. And so if you haven't guessed it, I would be fire.
And I'm agua.
And he would be agua. And so an 8 is a challenger, and so just even in itself, it already sounds like super abrasive, like the challenger. This particular personality is powerful. They consider it the powerful and dominating type. So we're very self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. And so we are assertive, we're protective, we're resourceful, straight talking, and decisive. But we can also be egocentric and domineering. We feel that we have to control our environment, especially people, sometimes becoming confrontational and intimidating. 8s typically have problems with their tempers and with allowing themselves to be vulnerable. But at our best, we're self-mastering and we use our strengths to improve others' lives, becoming heroic and inspiring. And so the basic fear for an 8 is being harmed or controlled by others. And so there's a lot to take in that itself, but basically we're complete opposites in the sense that he's more laid back and 8s are more just kind of more in front of the stage, if you want to put it that way. We are more dominating in the sense that we like to get things done all the time. We're always doing. And 9s are always just relaxing and just kind of like, yeah, let's just take a break, a really long break forever. Hi Zoe.
Kicking back.
You need to go poo-poo? All right.
Cut. And we're back.
So how does that affect us and how does that actually benefit us? So for one, when people meet, at least our relationship, our marriage, 8s and 9s, I am very much more the talker, as you can probably see in our videos. And I'm also very, I'm not afraid of confrontation. Not that I look for confrontation, but that if it does arise, it's something that I'm not afraid to handle. On the other hand, I guess one of the things that I guess I'm gonna share, when we were first married, I didn't feel like John really like stood up for me because he was so quiet. And so for me, being verbal and communicating is kind of the sign that like you're listening to me, you're for me. And so because he has such a different personality, I would take it as like he didn't really care about what was going on in the environment or in the situation. And so it would cause a lot of tension and conflict. But then on his end,
so as far as Brandi's end, her being an 8, she might be a little bit more on the challenging side, but it was more I have to understand exactly what just her personality consists of. So it's not so much that she's trying intentionally to be dominating or more conflicting. It's just more that she doesn't want to feel like she has to be controlled. And if I would have known that a little bit at the beginning of our marriage, we probably could have just saved a lot of fights. I remember times where she would be a little bit louder, and I would tell her, why are you yelling? And it wasn't that she was yelling, it's just that was her normal tone, but she was just trying to communicate in her personality.
Yeah. And so just with being like 8 and a 9, in general, like 8s are just super
Zoe's
like
in the background.
Super in a sense like they kind of take charge, they're leaders, and a lot of the times some of the things that we would get from people would be like, and this is like at least for us, because we're faith-based and we kind of biblically we try to follow the best as possible, but so we do believe that the husband is the head of the household, and so which is a crazy concept to some people, but in general, if you meet us, you would not possibly think from the outside that John would be the head of the household, because I'm so much more of a person that's kind of always doing things and always verbally communicating, and John's just more in the background. And so for a long time we've gotten that it doesn't look that way, but what we've learned is that there is a full amount of authority that Jonathan has, and it doesn't have to be spoken. I think a lot of the times we think that authority has to be shown by words or by being aggressive. And what we've learned is that his non-aggressive side has more authority than him being aggressive.
Yeah.
And so just because, I tend to make, most of the times when a decision is being made and I'm verbally saying it, it's because we've talked about the decision, and it may look like I have made the decision on spot, but it had already been decided previously. And so it is very different, that we are complete opposites in the sense of just our personalities. But one thing that we do have in common is that and I believe I'm going to say this right, and if I don't, you Enneagram coaches can comment, but we are in the triad of anger. And so we both struggle with anger as part of our personalities, except you struggle with anger
more in a passive way?
Yeah, more in a passive way and internally. And then I tend to express anger more physically and verbally.
It shows more, I guess.
It shows more. Yeah. And so that podcast that we got to listen to was very helpful, just because another thing that we learned was that 8s are just full of energy. They can just walk into a room and like, boom, energy's just there, and they're just super charismatic and just doing things. And 9s are not. And so what happens is sometimes 9s like to, what they call it, ride on the 8's energy. And so they have a really hard time finding personally what is their niche or what they want to show off, because they're so laid back. And so one thing that I know Jonathan is working on.
Yep. So I think just in this past, maybe this just 2019 year, I've been just trying to work on myself on just being, I guess more out there. I mean, a lot of times, I like to sit back and just kind of just sit back, relax. Sometimes I feed off my wife's energy, or even with friends and stuff. So I can be more, my personality can get to where I'm like, trying to be joking and funny and all that stuff. And but then there's another side of me where I want to just be peaceful. And sometimes even with our family life, when we got kids, we got 2 little ones, and a lot of times where I just need to sit by myself, and they could even be jumping around and all that stuff, and I will just zone them out. For some reason, I have the ability to like zone things out.
Superpower.
Yeah, it's my superpower. I can just zone things out in the midst of like the craziest noise. I can be in a concert and I'll just kind of zone it out. And it has this different perks and all that. But even with again this past year, I'm usually the guy behind the camera. I'm always taking pictures of people. I'm trying to I either take or just video of people, and I end up being behind that camera and not really trying to show my face and be just energetic and all that. And so that I've been doing a lot of videos of just shooting videos, and I've actually starting to get in front of the camera, and it's been an uncomfortable thing. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I'd rather be behind the camera, manning it and using my creativity in doing so. But God has just been showing me the importance of being influential, and I do have a voice. I do have authority in some of the things in my thoughts, some of the ideas that I might have. And even though I might not be the best communicator, I think God always makes us work at something that maybe we're not the strongest at. And yeah.
And I will say this about Jonathan, that he can literally be in any kind of conflict and can mediate the situation. I cannot do that. I will eventually get very fired up and passionate about what we're talking about and about my point, that I tend not to have the peace level, or I forget about the peace. But we could probably challenge him to any conflict and he will stay calm.
I think it's just important to like know your personality, know your wife's personality, just so that you can understand them better and be more gracious when they do things that you don't want them to do, or they mess up. And so just having that grace and understanding, I think, is one step to get for a healthier marriage. So
Yep. Thanks, guys.